Good morning. Today we're going to do schooled. We're going to do chapter 18. It's from Hugh Winkleman's perspective. And I didn't do a specific notice and note strategy this morning because I think several will apply. But I did ask the question, what changes are happening? Because I think that is going to help us with what can you infer? We've been practicing looking at what the book literally means and then reading between the lines and thinking about what the deeper meanings are. Yesterday, or a couple days ago, I taught you the again and again notice and note strategy. When a word, action, or phrase is repeated, asking how does this change things, or actually specifically, why does this keep happening and why is that important? Contrast and contradiction is another great one when you're talking about middle school students because they often do things opposite to what you would expect. It keeps the narrative going. It makes things interesting. So we're going to look at a whole bunch of different things to see what changes are happening and then what can you infer from this. Probably going to have to tap into your background knowledge. Chapter 18, name Hugh Winkleman. I was the first dropout from Cap's morning Tai Chi group, literally. Not that I'd even been the star of the class. 2 left feet weren't exactly an asset in martial arts. But I was Cap's friend as much as it was possible to get close to someone like him. I wore my tie-dyes proudly, secure in the knowledge that I had more right than anybody. After all, who hung out with Cap before he ever drove a bus or masterminded a dance? So there I was, waving my arms and hopping around like a turkey amped up on Mountain Dew, when the planted foot was kicked out from under me. It was so sudden, so devastating, that to this day I have no idea who did it to me. Darrell Pennyfield is my prime suspect, because he was close by. But I didn't catch him in the act. 1 minute, I was upright. The next, I was on the grass rolling. To the other kids in the group, it must have looked like I'd vanished into thin air. Were my deepest, darkest fears coming true? This was a great school year because Cap was taking the heat off of me. But when he wasn't a target anymore, heck, he was practically a celebrity. It was the bus driving thing that started it. When your whole world is a cheesy, prepackaged rehearsal for being alive, like middle school, a kid your own age who can pilot a 20-ton bus is impressive. Plus the fact that he saved somebody's life, obviously. Now, people were treating the 8th grade president like an 8th grade president. Someone who was admired and popular, a student leader who took on active role in the school. And that was great for Cap. But what did it mean for me? Was I back in the crosshairs because he was out of them? Only time would tell. So right here, I can see a big change. Hugh is kind of considering his position in the school. We've been again reminded that Cap has become popular or a celebrity instead of being the one that's picked on and has spitballs in his hair. I'm thinking things are going to turn, that Cap's going to hit some bumps, and that Hugh Winkleman questioning his friendship right now. Let's see what happens. Of all the newly minted Cap fans, the biggest surprise had to be Naomi Erlinger. She was with that whole Zach Powers crew, and not as a hanger-on either. She was part of the inner circle. Lena's best friend. That was royalty around here. Needless to say, I didn't know her well. Steering clear of that crowd was a good way to avoid being dangled by my ankles over a toilet bowl. But I'd heard that she had a big crush on Zach. And let's face it, if the rumor had made it down to my lowly rung on the ladder, you had to figure it was all over the school. So, what was her sudden fascination with Cap? She was star pupil of his Tai Chi group. She was constantly turning up at his locker to show him a new peace sign bracelet she'd bought, or a magazine article on Vietnam, or the Beatles, or anything about the 60s. Come to think of it, hers had been the first face at the door after the PTA announcement on tie-dyeing day. The 8th grade wing was on the opposite side of the building from the art room. She must have sprinted the entire distance. Of course, she was still one of the beautiful people. So when I spotted her, flanked by Lena and Daryl, coming our way in the hall, I was on my guard. "Hi, Cap," Naomi greeted us. Another thing about Naomi, I was invisible to her. Either that or I was like Cap's pet ferret, a subhuman companion undeserving of attention. "We're walking in the March of Caring this weekend, and we need sponsors." Daryl looked at me up and down, a threatening expression on his face. "It's for a really good cause." I pulled a pair of crumpled dollar bills from my pocket. It made no difference to me if the money was going to support throwing puppies off a 30-story office tower. It wasn't a charitable donation. I was purchasing wedgie insurance. And Daryl was Allstate. "Sorry, it can't be more." With a grunt of acknowledgement, Daryl snatched the money out of my hand and passed it on to Lena. Naomi's worshipful eyes never left the 8th grade president. "What do you say, Cap?" He took out the checkbook and began writing on it. I frowned. "Isn't that the school's money?" Mr. Kozaski said, "Spend it responsibly. What could be more responsible than giving to charity?" "Paying for the dance," I replied. "That's what it's supposed to be for." He was serene. "I've been inside that bank, Hugh. They've got plenty of money for everything." He tore off the check and handed it to Naomi. She took one look at it and let out a shriek that raised the roof clean off the school. Lena gawked over her shoulder. $1,000? What? I wheeled on Cap. "Are you nuts? You can't give away that much." "Rain says there should be no limit on giving." He lectured serenely. "Only taking." "She's not the one Mr. Kozaski is going to strangle." But my words were lost in the excited buzz as students flocked around to investigate the source of Naomi's scream. Lena took the check from her and held it up for the crowd. There were oohs and ahs. "You're awesome, Cap!" Naomi cried emotionally. "Awesome!" Daryl nodded fervently. "You're the man." Suddenly, everybody was clapping and cheering. I was blown away. Not one of those idiots had the faintest idea that Cap's donation came straight out of the budget for the Halloween dance. I wanted to scream, "Look at the check. The school's name is printed right on it. This money is yours, mine, all of ours." That was when I experienced a moment of stunning understanding. An aha moment. Let's see what happens. Popularity had nothing to do with the truth. If these kids took a minute to ask themselves where Cap got off writing $1,000 checks, they'd be rioting, not applauding. But what really mattered was image. The 8th grade president was a star now. Nobody questioned it when he did something wonderful because that's exactly what was expected of him. That's a pretty interesting statement, right? Popularity has nothing to do with truth. These kids just expected him to do something amazing. So things are changing here, right? What can you infer might happen? Or what can you infer reading between the lines about Hugh's feelings and emotion? What will this do to Cap's ego, right? All the adulation must have been overwhelming to someone like Cap, who was so accustomed to peace and quiet. He pushed his way through a barrage of high fives and ducked into the bathroom. I followed him, struggling with my own feelings about this. I wanted to be happy for the guy, but why? Because he did something stupid? His entire rise to fame seemed bizarre, random, dumb. "Must be nice," was all I could think to mutter. "It is nice," he agreed in wonder. "I couldn't imagine how good it feels when so many people like you." I recoiled as if he'd slapped me. Being liked was a feeling I didn't know, that I might never know. And to have that rubbed in my face by my one kindred spirit, the only person around who was more of an outsider than I was, it was the ultimate insult. Ooh, Hugh does not seem happy here. That's a change in terms of how he responded to Cap. And I want you to think, is Cap really trying to hurt Hugh's feelings? I didn't care if he grew up on Pluto, let alone some hippie commune. To say that to me, someone who'd never experienced a popular minute, much less a popular day, was beyond cruel. Nothing could have made me feel worse than I did at that instant. The door was flung mightily open, and into the boys' room burst Naomi, her face pink with daring. She threw her arms around Cap and pressed a long kiss right on his mouth. Cap was so shocked that he crumpled against the stall door when she let go. "To be continued," she said meaningfully, and ran out of the bathroom. I glowered at him through eyes that were barely slits. Hero status wasn't good enough for him anymore. He had to be a heartthrob, too. I was finished with Capricorn Anderson. Well, let's talk about major changes there, right? Hugh Winkleman is really frustrated, and to my knowledge, Cap didn't outrightly do anything to Hugh. Have you ever felt like that? Where you were irritated with somebody because they were getting something you weren't? And how did you deal with it? What advice could you give this character? I want you to think about what changes are happening. How is this going to affect our plot? I look forward to seeing your thinking. Take care. Bye.